of radiation beyond the plant would not measurably increase the risk of most cancers. According to this draft federal report, the only result attributable to the accident would be an increase in the risk of childhood thyroid cancer, and then they add a cancer that has a low baseline incidence rate as well as a high survival rate if contracted. This is beyond liar, liar, pants on fire. It flies in the face of everything we know about radiation's impact on the human body. The one thing that is guaranteed is that it can and will create cancer. But Neil Kelly, spokesmodel for Ontario Power Generation, which operates the Darlington nuclear facility, said the company had worked with the Safety Commission as it did the report. Ha 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 ha! I'm sure you did, Neil, baby. Luckily, Canada has Gordon Edwards, who heads the Canadian Association for Nuclear Responsibility. He said, when they say there are no attributable health effects, they're not saying there won't be health effects. They're just saying you can't prove we did it. Edwards also noted that the report doesn't discuss the economic impact of a severe accident with mass evacuation, contaminated property, and economic disruption. Oh, that. And that's why the Canadian Nuclear Safety, put that in quotes, Commission is this week's
Nuclear Hot Seat, nuts out a week.
By the way, if any of you has a connection to Gordon Edwards, I would love to interview the man. Nuclear Hot Seat continues to reach out to people around the world, especially in Japan with our Voices from Japan series, which will continue in just a moment. With our increasing audience comes increasing bandwidth charges to support all of the downloads, plus website charges and a whole slew of expenses that must be met to keep this program running. If you've donated to help us before, many thanks and ongoing gratitude. If you haven't yet donated, or if you'd like to help out again, just go to nuclearhotseat.com, scroll down on the homepage, and click on the big red donate button. Your assistance will go directly to helping me help you keep up to date on all things anti-nuclear. Whatever you can do to help, many thanks. This week, as I said, we again feature Voices from Japan, and we're talking with Laura and Gichi Inoue, who together run Komuro Homestay, a program which sponsors families with small children to come to the relative safety of the Komuro Nagano region to have a little bit of normalcy. They joined Nuclear Hot Seat via Skype from Japan, and apologies for those areas of the recording where Skype becomes, well, Skype-ish. Laura and Gichi Inoue, welcome to Nuclear Hot Seat.
Nice to be here.
Nice to be here, yes.
First of all, where do you live in Japan in relationship to Fukushima?
We are 4 or 5 hours drive from Fukushima. Distance is one of the key factors, but the other factor is that we are in the middle of high mountain, so that according to that study of Chernobyl case, that the radiation doesn't go over that mountain. So that we first predicted that our place is much safer than around in Fukushima, including Tokyo, so that we started this program.
When did you first become aware of the impact of the earthquake and tsunami on the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant? And what was your immediate response?
First, that these broadcasted on the news.
As it was happening?
Yes. Actually, that I studied some of the nuclear fusion when I was in university, so that I could tell that can happen. A certain risk was there, and especially that according to my business experience, that's a big organization like TEPCO or that's a government, they're very slow in decision making and so on, so that I was alerted the way they dealt with these accidents.
And Laura,
Yes.
How was the impact on you, and what was your immediate response as you became aware of the problem with the nuclear reactor, and through Gichi's response, what you knew was going to be happening for the people?
Well, my response was really filtered through Gichi because he had the knowledge both of matters nuclear and of the insides of big businesses and how they managed or mismanaged things. And together we became immediately aware that the consequences of this could be very, very bad. And as the weeks unfolded, we were proved to be unfortunately right.
I felt, rather than logically thinking, that I felt in front of you that when, if you be in that the site of the fire, and then that the house is burning, and then inside the house, burning a house, some children or families are there, then you cannot stay or stand by.
You try to get them out.
You just want to do something. That's the first very strong urge of that my feeling, to do something rather than just stand by and then onlookers.
How did you determine that you were going to focus on the needs of mothers and children to get out of the radiation zone? How quickly did that concept come up, and what did you do to start working on it?
There are two holds. One is that because I was working in a big company, and then that's their nature of slow decision making, and then that's not decide properly, and then not ready to take responsibility. So that is a human risk. And then I could tell that ordinary weak people, especially the weakest children, could be that victim or the result of these big organizations' slowness and so on. So that I decided to take care of them or do something to them. Because most of that big organization, including local government, it's the last thing they think about.
Well, the last thing they think about are the powerless.
Yes.
What actions did you take to facilitate an outreach to the mothers and children of Fukushima, and how much participation was there by others in Komoro to do this with you?
We knew some of that volunteer group, 3 or 4 in our neighbors, so that I just proposed to form this volunteer group to support and help these families. And then they agreed upon. And then that many people felt an urge of doing something. 3 or 4 local volunteers, activists around us, I asked to form this volunteer group to start with, and then they agreed. And then also we asked local church priest who is running the kindergarten to join in to this volunteer group, and then they all agreed. So that's how we started. That was 3 days after this massive fallout of that radiation occurred.
So this started virtually while the disaster was still unfolding at its worst.
Yes.
Laura, how did you reach out to the mothers and children in Fukushima to let them know that you were going to be offering them a place to come and stay, at least temporarily, to get out of the radiation zone?
We were fumbling. We didn't really know how to do this, but we started through acquaintances and networks other people had, and they didn't work very well. But what worked in the end were websites aimed at young mothers. And so Geichi put the information on 1 or 2 websites like this, and the responses came pouring in, more than we could cope with.
Yes. First, the end of March and then April, May, we tried to use this anti-nuclear activist channel. That's one thing. Within a week after we formed this group, one of that group member found 3 guest house empty, so that we can use that for the homestay facilities. So that after that, we sent all this notice at the beginning of April to first anti-nuclear activist channel. And then second, we tried to use a church channel from Komoro Church to Date City and then Fukushima City. But that didn't work because the actual ordinary mothers, not within these channels, maybe that the local priest didn't know how to pass this information to ordinary families and the mothers who were struggling. Fortunately, we found a website of the mothers who are exchanging all this information, their opinions. Two sites. I put this onto homestay program and then that possibility. And then within a half a day, we've got 130 applicants.
Wow. With getting this overwhelming number of applicants, how did you move forward to process and bring mothers and children to Komoro to stay? How is the program actually set up?
In the end, 22 families, 44 children in total over the summer holidays, we could manage. And then we prioritize that these applicants, and then that's around the area where most of the contaminated area to start with, and also that the age of children. Small babies are more dangerous. So that unfortunately we only accepted 22.
It was heartrending to have to select people. And I'll never forget the evening when all the applicants, first applications were flooding in. They first rang this, actually it was a Methodist minister, and he couldn't cope with the telephone calls. They were just coming, and many of the callers were in tears and could barely speak. Anyway, finally it settled down and we selected these people who came. And one other thing we did was to prioritize during the summer holidays those with school-aged children. And the smaller ones, where there were no school-aged children, could come after the holidays were over. Because they weren't bound by school terms. And this was the stage when they just had to get away. They weren't thinking about settling anywhere or anything for the future. It was just the immediate few weeks.
First notice was for the summer holiday, but also we extended this scheme, and then even after the summer holidays. That first year we didn't restrict the stay period only for the summer holiday. We extended some facility for two families to stay nearly half a year. Within that time, they could find somewhere to move out. 7 families out of 22 who came to homestay over the summer holiday. These 7 families moved out, and then we helped them to find the house in Komoro and in Nagano cities and so on.
We here in the West do not necessarily understand Japanese culture well enough to understand the pressures faced and still being faced by families in Fukushima. What were and are some of the stresses on the mothers and children?
There are 3 major stress and then issues they had. One is that fear to let the children play outside and then touch anything outside. So when they came to that homestay, even that small children around 3 or 4 years old just ask mothers everything. Can I touch this sand? Can I touch this flowers? And then so on. So that's quite a natural thing for the small children. That's one of that stress. And then also another thing is that the lack of proper information. Once this information comes out, it's too late. Like that, how much contamination was in that water, for instance. They found out later that they were there waiting for that water with the children outside with all this contaminated air. After they found all this, what happened with the delayed information, they very, very strongly regret by finding out what happened to them and then for their children. One family that used the bottled water, very expensive, to wash everything because they fear the tap water. She used without knowing how much contamination was in there, and then let the children drink and then use. And then ever after she found out that delayed information, how much it was contaminated, then she had a very strong regret, and then even after it went back to normal, that she never touches that tap water. That's sort of that kind of mental and stress. And at the same time, that not to be able to talk about this worry and their health and so on.
I understand that